Welcome back. You're watching NewsX and I'm Megha Sharma. The UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is set to begin his first official visit to India, with talks between both countries set to cover the entire gamut of the bilateral partnership, including trade, investment and technology ties. The two-day visit, at the invitation of Prime Minister Modi, will see both leaders take stock of the progress made across all aspects of the India-US Comprehensive Strategic Partnership in line with Vision 2035, a 10-year roadmap agreed alongside the India-UK Free Trade Agreement to build key pillars of partnership. The UK Prime Minister will take a visit to Mumbai, where he is expected to address the 6th edition of the Global FinTech Fest along with PM Modi. The last meeting between the two leaders took place in July this year, where the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement was formalized. Now, the big question is, does this visit signal a new era for India-UK trade ties and diplomatic relations? Let's start off our conversation. Ambassador Manju Seth is on the telecast with me. Ambassador Seth, of course, what does this indicate that just a few months after the free trade agreement has been signed and Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself has visited United Kingdom, met Keir Starmer, again an agreement with regards to the comprehensive strategic partnership has been fortified, we see Keir Starmer coming to India. This is amidst the tariff war that is being waged by US President Donald Trump on Europe, on United Kingdom and the rest of the world.
Absolutely. And the given the situation that is going or prevailing around has been, I think, one of the factors for the UK-India FTA to be signed, or the Comprehensive Economic Trade Agreement, as they call it, CETA. That was one of the reasons also because of what is happening. And now this visit coming so soon after our Prime Minister's visit and after the CETA was signed, I think is a clear marker and a clear pointer how important both sides regard the relationship, the trade relationship as well. And this focus this time is on trade and investments, innovation, AI and quantum computing, etc. All the emerging technologies, which are really, their future is here, so to speak. So I think it is important for both countries to collaborate. They have strengths in some areas, we have strengths in some areas. And I think also because of the tariffs, market access to the US has become a problem for our products, and the UK is prepared to cut down tariffs on most of 90% of our products, export products and export lines. And I think that, of course, it has to be yet to be ratified by their parliament. But when it is, it will definitely be an important change or an important turning point in the bilateral trade relationship. And as this fintech, fest that is taking place in Mumbai, for which both leaders will be also speaking at, I think there again, it is something, fintech is something which is again an emerging technology and in which India has strengths. As you know, there's so many millions of transactions, UPI transactions taking place in India every day. And I think the UPI transaction and the other fintech innovations that India is doing, and of course, as in the UK, are both areas where both countries can collaborate and benefit from each other's strengths. So I think all in all, I think this visit is going to be very important for both countries.
Yeah.
And that is why he has come so soon. The UK Prime Minister is here. He realizes that even the UK is impacted by what is happening by President Trump's activities and his I should call it activities. It's really his announcements every day, and we don't know what the next tweet is going to say. And what it holds for all countries, including the UK and for India. So I think we have to, work and make this relationship even stronger. And also, as you are aware, defense is an important area of collaboration for us. So I think in all, if you see, this visit will be a sort of important milestone in the bilateral relationship to further strengthen the ties.
Mm-hmm. Professor Madhav Nalapat, thank you for joining us. And of course, the key focus, and it's also important how significant it is that the Prime Minister is going to meet the UK counterpart Keir Starmer in Mumbai. And both of them will be addressing the Global FinTech Fest that is taking place between 7th and 9th of October. And again, bringing the focus to fintech, bringing the focus to quantum mechanics, cyber security is another thing. But the fact that this meeting is not taking place in Delhi but taking place in Mumbai, what is the significance of it?
Well, the significance is frankly that fintech is very active in Mumbai, and may I say some of the best fintech companies in the world are located in Mumbai and are Indian. So I think, that the country has now finally developed an ecosystem where this kind of advanced fintech is allowed to flourish. Otherwise, what happens is foreign competitors use their influence and with local individuals of influence and basically strangle them, so that many of these innovators are forced to go abroad, and some of them do stay in India, and now finally they're getting a suitable climate for activity during Modi 3.0. I think that's a very welcome sign. I would only like to make one point, Maker, that it cannot be one way. The UK is obviously looking at it's got a lot of defense items it needs to export. It's frankly got a lot of money it needs to generate because of the cost of the Ukraine war and other issues. They recently had to cut back even on some core labor problems, very strong labor programs because of this financial crunch. So the UK will be looking at India as a very fast expanding market, and will be looking at creating a very high trade surplus with India. I think we should ensure, and I'm sure the Prime Minister will ensure this, that there is equal access on both sides so that Indian companies also benefit from the UK market and from being in the UK market for possibly for movement to other markets. So I think if it's a win-win partnership on both sides, if both sides derive benefit, it's very, very good. And that is the strength and importance of any negotiation, that it has to be a situation where both sides get advantage, roughly equal advantage. And I'm sure under the Prime Minister, this will be assured from the Indian side. And yes, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer is visiting India. I think it's a very welcome visit. I think the UK has several strengths in the matter of fintech, in the matter and innovation. There's no question about it. And I'm quite confident the visit will ensure several new MOUs and undertakings get signed, whether with the government or more importantly with private industry. Thank you, Megha.
I'm also being joined by Yogendra Kapoor. Another aspect that I want to highlight with regards to the India-UK relationship, bilateral ties, is education. There is a record number of Indian students who travel to United Kingdom every year. They contribute to a large percentage of the revenue that United Kingdom earns in the education sector. In fact, there are two UK universities that are opening up their campuses in India. One has already opened it up and the second one is in the process of doing the same. How important is people-to-people contact and education particularly for United Kingdom to be so reliant on India?
Right, Megha. First of all, I would like to say that when we look at India, UK, or the way international trade is taking place today, it was pure diplomacy which was driving, the economics between the countries. But in 2025, we are witnessing that it's the other way around. It's the economics which is driving the diplomacy and the leaders from one country to another. I definitely see it as a win-win proposition. India enjoys a trade surplus against United Kingdom, and I definitely foresee that both the leaders will be focusing on their respective markets. Of course, UK will be, looking at a great opportunity when we see that the kind of barriers that are being created by United States, it will look at as an opportunity for itself. At the same time, I would also like to say that it's very important that PM Modi emphasizes the fact that, in terms of India's trade with UK, there are certain bottlenecks in the form of obstacles, which I foresee that needs to be, taken care, and which is in the form of the regulatory and compliance part, because United Kingdom has very strong, a system of safety and, getting to the rules of origin when it comes to importing agricultural products, food processing items from India. So, and likewise, I also see that it's very important that the movement of professionals is very important, that it should be eased out. What we are witnessing is that there have been in the past situations where the movement of professionals has got restricted into the United Kingdom. So I think it's an opportunity where both the leaders can sit and, work in a cohesive way that both the economies, they prosper.
Absolutely. Ambassador Manju Seth, coming back to you, talking about signing the FTA, talking about the comprehensive strategic deal that has been also signed, and this was stagnating for quite some time. 3 years is what it took for finally the deal to be signed. We also see now the European Union is very eager to sign that FTA with India. That had also been, a laggard for the last several years. What has, pushed these countries to come and do business with India?
I think two factors. One, of course, are the ongoing wars, and especially the Ukraine war, which all the UK as well as EU have been supporting. So definitely their economic crunch is there in these, or not right now, but they are facing that prospect of an economic downturn and crunch. And so, and also the second factor is, of course, President Trump's announcements of tariffs against everyone, whether friend or foe or ally. And the way he has been going about it, I think, has been really, quite unsettling for all countries. And it's caused turbulence. It has caused a lot of anguish and a lot of, a kind of breach of trust kind of feeling in most countries, because it is unexpected. And it was something, the transatlantic relationship was really very special. But I think President Trump, with his activities, has put a kind of spanner in the wheels for that special alliance and special relationship that existed. And now all countries, while, of course, they cannot do away completely with their partnerships and their relationship with the US, are looking for alternatives.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the reasons why it has been hastened. The UK FTA 1 was also, quickly finalized, and the EU is also looking at quickly finalizing the agreement, because they see this as an opportunity for themselves, of course, but and as far as India is concerned, India also will be able to negotiate a good mutually beneficial deal. It is expected, like with the UK, we have got pretty acceptable and a mutually beneficial deal. And I think including for movement of professionals, if I remember right, that was also one of the items mentioned in the deal. And once it is ratified by the Parliament, in the UK Parliament, and I think on our side also it needs ratification for it to come into force. And so once it is done, I think it will lead to better outcomes for our professionals as well. And of course, while they would also be looking for markets, they are ready. And despite all and I think now India's quality control and enforcing all the standards which are required in the EU and the UK, I think we have reached a certain level. And I recall that there was an EU testing lab set up in India some years ago. I think it's still functional. And I think that was, that ensures that any product going to Europe, including the UK, being, especially the agricultural products, which had a lot of phytosanitary and other trade barriers or non-tariff barriers. So all those, I think we have taken care mostly. I won't say 100% across the board, but yes, it is quite. It is something which we have tried to enforce and to make our producers and our in the food processing sector and the agricultural sector to ensure that these norms are followed. And I think that is one of the reasons why a lot of our products, agricultural products, are being exported already to Europe. But I think it's some more due diligence needs to be done.
Okay, Professor Nalapat, there's a very interesting statement that has been made by External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar yesterday. He said India did not ally with anybody even when it was much weaker, and today there is absolutely no reason to do this. Do you think there is a paradigm shift that has happened in this new world order with US President Donald Trump looking inwards? Protectionism is the norm, and trade tariffs have led to countries aligning themselves by way of first taking care of their interests, but perhaps keeping their bilateral relations or diplomatic ties secondary.
Yeah, yes, you're quite right, Megha. And I think the point that was being made was that India has a very independent foreign policy in particular, and that foreign policy is not going to be compromised no matter what, how high the pressure. I mean, the pressure from Donald Trump in the White House has been immense, but India has not compromised on that. And basically, India is pushing back against those measures and that approach by President Trump, that either you do it my way or is the highway for you. So the reality of the situation is, look at Russia, for example. India is very close to Russia. And President Putin is due to visit India later this year. So the reality of the situation is, India has got a very sovereign right to assert itself in its own interests. And I think what is important is that just as Sir Keir Starmer is looking at the British interest, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be looking at the Indian interest. As far as education is concerned, well, the reality is there are world-class universities now being set up in India, and many of them have got campuses abroad. So the reality is it can be a two-way traffic. As far as AI is concerned, as far as technology is concerned, again, there is scope for establishing world-class technology and AI centers, and which can then patent their findings and earn a lot of money through those patents, which will come into India. So I think in Modi 3.0, we are seeing that kind of an ecosystem gather speed, and I think that's a very welcome sign. So all in all, I'm very happy that Sir Keir is coming to India. I think that shows that he's a good friend of India, and that shows that the British relationship with India is strong and vibrant. And what is important is that our strengths are there, and our strengths are only going to grow in the future. So I think everybody is aware of that, including in the UK. And I think that's one of the reasons why, as you pointed out, Sir Keir has come so soon. He was responding so soon to Prime Minister Modi's invitation. I have a feeling that this is going to be an important visit, brief though it is. And I have a feeling that many new agreements are going to be signed. And I think, in my part, I personally welcome this interaction between India and Britain. And I'm very, very confident that both countries will gain. And that is the important point. There should be a situation where both countries gain. And I think that situation will be very well emphasized by both leaders, and who will arrive at mutually amicable, mutually beneficial solutions to any issues between them, including the issues that were just about mentioned in the media, and also it is a problem. Our businesses must find it easier to move to sell their products in the UK, subject, of course, to quality control, and their products need to find equal access in India. And I'm very, very sure that a free trade agreement in India is not going to be the usual FTA, which is anything but free trade. You have SPAs in many countries are anything but free trade, because a lot of non-trade barriers are established, and as a consequence, the value of the FTA is diminished. I'm sure that won't happen in the India-UK FTA. And yes, quite right, this will be a spur to the EU to go forward with its own FTA in India, and that will be further welcome to the development of ties between India and the EU, as this visit and the agreements that have been signed and will be signed are to to basically stronger partnership between the UK and India, Megha.
Okay, Yugend, I do want to get your comment particularly on these free trade agreements where India's goods are traveling to Europe, including United Kingdom and in the Middle East and Southeast Asia and so on and so forth. Will these trade benefits help in offsetting the costs that India has to witness because of the tariffs that have been imposed, 50% of them by the US administration?
Look, one very welcome step by the government was to rationalize GST. After which I think this is probably the first rationalization that's taking place, and the rationalizations were excellent. I'm sure they'll be followed by a fresh tranche of rationalizations. So the good news is the crisis has spurred changes in policy, and these changes in policy are beneficial to ensuring that investment come into the country rather than leave the country, that entrepreneurs are enabled to do their best in India rather than have to migrate to other centers and really show their productivity. And I think it's very, very important from that point of view that a climate is created which welcomes such investment and which welcomes such activity. And I think that kind of a climate, we are seeing that get created during Modi 3.0. So I just want to point out, Megha, that I have a feeling that this is going to be an important visit, but I'm quite confident of that. But I'd also like to say that there is some way to go before we can be fully satisfied that the India-UK ties are as good as what they potentially could be. Yes.
You can, talking about offsetting the losses India is facing in wake of the tariffs, United Kingdom is considerably a very small market. How many of these markets will India have to capture to ensure the losses are not significant?
You see, Megha, if we look at the kind of barriers that have been created by the United States by way of tariffs, the biggest of or largest of our industry, which is going to suffer as such, it is the labor-intensive sectors, which are primarily, engaged in textiles, in diamonds. So what I see is that United Kingdom has, already done, I would say, wherein India should be thanking them by way of this free trade agreement that they have literally removed the tariffs on 99% of the items, which includes the agricultural products, which includes textiles. So you see, I definitely see the kind of losses that are getting incurred by India being offset by our increased exports to the United Kingdom as well as other EU nations. So I see it as a great opportunity. Only important thing is that the government needs to support by way of the availability of credit, to the MSMEs, to the industry, so that they are able to execute the orders.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, on that note, I'm out of time. I thank all of you for joining me on the telecast and sharing your views on this very important subject. We'll keep a close eye once Keir Starmer lands in India tomorrow. Of course, the big meeting that is anticipated between both the leaders. Shifting our focus to